Jesus called his 12 disciples to him and gave them authority to drive out evil spirits and to heal every disease and sickness.
The Bible contains remarkable stories of miracles and divine interventions. Moses parted the sea. Peter healed a man lame from his mother's womb. Jesus drove demons out of people and raised others from the dead. But are these types of events still happening today?
We too have a beam of divine light and guidance that God has put within the heart of every man. And it's one of the greatest proofs that there is a God.
More amazing supernatural things are happening than we realize.
This is Divine Intervention, the interview show that features intriguing people who've experienced the hand of God in amazing ways. Divine Intervention was created and produced with the purpose of encouraging believers, spiritual seekers, and skeptics alike that Jesus is alive and is still performing miracles and working in the world today.
I believe in miracles.
Here's your host, Daniel Fazzina.
Hello and welcome to Divine Intervention Radio, the interview show that features intriguing people who've experienced the hand of God in amazing ways. I am your host, Daniel Fazzina. So honored, privileged, and excited to be here with you today. Got another amazing guest in store with a powerful testimony of hearing God's voice and listening to His direction and seeing how when God puts a vision in your heart and in your mind to complete, He's going to complete it. He's going to provide the means necessary to do it. You may not know how exactly, but He comes through in amazing ways as you take steps of faith and just step out and watch God move in your life. It's really amazing. So we're going to get to our special guest in a minute, but before we do that, I just want to remind you, as always, if you miss any of these shows, they are all archived on divineinterventionradio.com. Go to the website there, divineinterventionradio.com. You can listen at your leisure, and you can share the podcasts with your friends. They're all up on YouTube there. You can check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/Divine Intervention Radio. And also you can follow me on Twitter at Daniel Fazzina, the numeral 1, at Daniel Fazzina 1 on twitter.com. And of course, drop me a line. If you want to email me, I'd love to hear how this show has impacted you or encouraged you in any way. Divineintervention@mail.com is the email address, divineintervention@mail.com. Also, friend, I have a request. I need a favor from you, if you wouldn't mind. If you're listening to this broadcast between October 28th and November 24th, 2015, I need a huge favor from you. I've entered my young daughter, Evangeline, into the Gerber Baby 2015 photo search competition. They're looking for a spokesbaby for 2016, and they're taking entries for babies. So they said, could your cutie be the next Gerber baby? Is your baby too cute for words? Show us and you can win. So I submitted a photograph of my 11-month-old daughter, Evangeline. The judges are going to pick the grand prize winner, but there are milestone awards for, toddler and sitter and birth, crawler, that kind of thing. And those are determined by popular vote. So I'm requesting your help in overwhelming Gerber servers with the love of the cuteness. So if you wouldn't mind, please go to Gerber.com. Click on the Gerber Baby 2015 photo search button there, and you can register your email, and then you can vote for my Evangeline Hope. That would be so awesome. I would really appreciate your help. She's baby number 286048. Once again, 286048. Her name is Evangeline, and you can do a search there, and then share the cuteness. You can share it to Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and get your friends to vote for her too. I would really appreciate that. Again, the contest is from October 28th to November 24th, 2015. So if you're listening to this broadcast within that time frame, please go to Gerber.com, register, and vote for Evangeline, baby number 286048 from Henrico, Virginia. That's 286048. And you can see the parent's name there is Daniel. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your help with this. Winners will be announced in January of 2016, and I will definitely let you know what happens with that. All right, friend, thank you so much. And now I want to get to our special guest. In the Bible, in John 10:27, Jesus says, "My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me." And today's guest is a real good example of that. Her name is Dana Joy Cavallaro, and she's been in ministry for over 3 decades. She graduated from Evangel University with a degree in biblical studies and the dream of continuing her education to become a college professor. After a year on the mission field, however, God redirected Dana into full-time church ministry. She received a Master's of Divinity from Gordon Conwell Theological Seminary, and currently Dana is in the final stages of a Doctorate of Ministry degree from Regent University. She served as a youth minister, associate pastor, minister of counseling, and conference speaker, and she also has a pulpit ministry. And she's been married to her husband Dan since 1983, and they have 2 sons. And she has an amazing story of how God led her and directed her and just provided for a really big vision that she had. So it's my pleasure to introduce to you Dana Cavallaro right now on Divine Intervention Radio. Dana, welcome to Divine Intervention Radio. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's great to be here, Daniel.
Well, I'm very excited to talk to you. You've got an amazing story of how God really spoke to you and directed you in regards to your vision. And we're definitely going to get to that. But before we do, why don't you take us to the beginning a little bit? Tell us a little bit about your background and how you became a believer in Jesus.
Well, Daniel, I grew up in a Christian home. My parents always took us to church, and my dad was in the military. And whenever we moved, one of the very first things that they did is they found a home church. Being away from family, your church really becomes like a family, and that was really important to them.
Very important.
And so I accepted the Lord as my Savior when I was 7 years old. I still remember the sermon that the minister preached.
Wow.
It had such an impact on my life. And I grew up in kind of like the Jesus era, the Jesus revolution, and just saw God do some great things. And I went to a Christian university, and I went with one idea of getting into education and becoming a teacher. And while I was there, the Lord really got a hold of my heart and called me into full-time ministry.
Wow. And you've been in ministry for over 3 decades, I understand.
Yes. I'd like to tell people I started when I was 10, but that just probably doesn't cut it.
Well, if you got saved when you were 7, it's possible,
Yeah, maybe so.
That's funny.
And that was the time when I didn't see a lot of women pastors.
Right.
I saw a lot of wives who participated in ministry with their husband, but I didn't see just women pastors. So it was really kind of a step of faith for me.
Sure.
Doing something that I hadn't really seen done a lot before.
Right, and you do have a pulpit ministry, which, as you say, is not that common. At least it wasn't back then. So you're kind of a pioneer in that respect, I guess, in America.
I didn't think of it at the time, but since then, I've come to see that, maybe some of the things I've gone through have forged a path for other women to come behind me and made it a lot easier for them.
Okay. And so you went to Evangel University, and then after that, Gordon Conwell?
I did. I spent some time on the mission field between college and seminary, and while I was on the mission field, I just felt like the Lord was telling me to go to seminary, and I was a Master's of Divinity student. Not many women did that in those days either, and so God was just faithful.
Yeah.
Every step of the way.
Now, where did you go on the mission field?
I was in Europe, actually. Okay. I taught at a Bible college there and worked in the office as a registrar and director of admissions.
What country?
Belgium.
Belgium, okay. Now, I love talking to missionaries because they're usually on the front lines and they're seeing God move in some amazing ways. And, I think when you take that step of faith and you go to the mission field, which I've done a couple of times, you see things and God really not only uses you but changes you and really speaks to you. Can you give me an example of something that maybe occurred on the mission field or how God reached you or how you knew He was there with you?
Oh, absolutely. Let me just back up and say, when I was a freshman, I saw this little notice on a bulletin board that Continental Bible College was looking for teachers, and I thought, I would love to do that. And, the notice went away. When I was a senior, it came back up again.
Okay.
And I think it was probably more for faculty than it was for students. But I had worked really hard in school, and I had been a department fellow, and I got a great recommendation, and the Lord just opened up doors for me to go to the mission field. But I had to raise my own budget.
Right.
So the first miracle that happened is they desperately needed people over there, and I had only raised half of my entire budget. And they said, we usually don't do this, Dana, but we're going to let you go.
Wow.
And I thought, well, I'll make it somehow. And my mom and dad were taking me to the airport. I had my trunks packed. Everything was in the car. And I said to them, for some reason, let me just go back and take one last look at the house to make sure I haven't left anything. And when I came back in the front door, the telephone was ringing. And I answered the phone, and it was the Division of Foreign Missions from my denomination. And they said, Dana, we just wanted you to know that we just received a check for over half your support for the entire year.
What?
On the condition that you would never know who it came from.
Wow.
I got back in the car and just wept.
Oh, my gosh.
And I felt like the Lord said to me then, I want you there. And I'm never late.
That is amazing. So you went with the full support, the full funding that you needed.
I did.
That is amazing.
And I was willing to go with only half. That meant maybe I wouldn't eat all my meals or, some other kinds of sacrifices. But the Lord met me. And so that was even before I went. And so just going there, I didn't know a single soul, not one person. I remember getting off of the airport in Brussels, Belgium, and there was a lady holding a little bitty sign that said CBC, and I knew that was the person I was to go to.
That's amazing. I think God just saw your heart, your willingness to serve Him and just to go and go in faith, step out in faith, and He met you there. It's obviously by providing that money and then just seeing you go. Wow, that is really cool. Friend, you're listening to Divine Intervention Radio. I'm your host, Daniel Fazina, and we are visiting with our special guest, Dana Joy Cavallaro, who is a minister and a missionary with some really amazing stories of how God has been faithful to her and provided for her in all sorts of ways. So now, Dana, when you got to Belgium, what was the spiritual atmosphere like in that country at the time, and then how did God work with you there?
Well, it was there that God really confirmed my call to be in full-time ministry. I was, teaching. I taught some incoming freshmen. It was a real international school, students from all over Europe. I had a student from Iran, from Singapore, the Netherlands. The school was divided language, so half was taught in French, half was taught in English, and of course I taught the English, excuse me. It was a Christian school and a denominational school, so students just literally came from Europe and Asia, and that was exciting to see these students. I remember the students from Korea and Singapore would often pray through the night. And I was so motivated by their hunger. God delights in a hungry heart.
Right.
And that was in itself transforming. And the sacrifices that many of them had made. And I also got involved in a church there, an English-speaking church in the youth group. And the Lord just really began to confirm to me, this is where I want you.
Wow.
So that part was great. And, Daniel, I went and I was really, in so many ways, naive. A young single person, 21 years old, traveling through European cities, often alone.
Wow.
And I just saw God's protection. I remember once my roommate and I had gone into the city, and we were coming out, and you had to wait for buses, so it was very late at night to get the bus that we needed to go back. And we were surrounded by a group of men. She and I were walking, and these men just encircled us. And she said to me, don't look them in the eye, and pray. And we began to pray in the Spirit. And as we walked arm in arm down this back alley to where we had to catch the bus, these men formed a tight circle, and we began to pray in the Spirit, and all of a sudden, the circle broke, and they left us alone.
Wow. Well, I mean, were they like threatening you, or?
Well, what we didn't realize at the time, at least I did, and she explained to me later, that sex trafficking was a huge deal, and these men would often surround young gals like ourselves and kidnap us.
Oh, my goodness. Wow.
And
well, that demonstrates the power of prayer right there.
Oh, it does. And I just felt the protection of the Lord, and I thought, if I could see in the Spirit, I know God surrounded us with angels.
Wow. That is amazing.
And I didn't do that again.
Okay.
I didn't, we learned our lesson.
Right.
But in order to get to the church where we also worked, we had to, take probably 3 different buses to get there.
Right.
But we decided that we weren't going to do that late at night again. But God was with us.
Obviously He was, and that's probably a wise thing to do, to learn from past experience and not do that again. And I can kind of relate, because when I was a 21-year-old college student, I studied abroad as well. And in a foreign land, in a foreign city where you don't speak the language that well, you just don't know where you're heading, and you could be going into a very dangerous situation or part of the city and just be completely clueless, naive, unaware of what's going on. And I think, at least for me, when I was over in Europe, I had a false sense of security because I was unaware. I did not know where I was going, or what neighborhoods were good, what were bad. So I don't know. I just think God's maybe guardian angels were working overtime for me there and protected me.
I really believe that. When I was in seminary, I went to seminary in Boston and lived very close to Boston. I participated in the urban program, so I worked in an urban church and lived in a section of Boston right outside the city. And on a particular Sunday morning, it had been snowing most of the night, and it was still continuing to snow. And I got up early because I lived next to the church, and I wanted to look at the sidewalks and just see how bad it was, to see, the pastor wanted me to see if we needed to cancel church. And I had a key. I went into the building and got some shovels and came out and noticed that there were footprints. I went in one side of the building, and when I walked around to the other side, there were footprints in the snow that had been just made, and the front door had been broken into.
Oh, my goodness.
Well, when I went down into the basement of the church to get the shovels, I just was singing, which I often did, especially when I was alone in the city. I would just sing to the top of my lungs praise songs. And so I had been singing while I was getting the shovels. But while I was getting the shovels, somebody was running out the front door of the church. And I went into the church and used the phone to call the police and the lead pastor there. And the church had been broken into, and somebody had literally just gone to the office and destroyed it.
Oh, my goodness. Just moments before you got there?
Yes. Well,
wow.
Maybe while I was still in the basement looking for the shovels.
Wow.
And, the police said, get out of the church in case anybody's in there, get out. And I did. I, went around to the sidewalk and just started shoveling. And the amazing thing was, sometime later, an older saint in the church. Now, I had gone, this was early in the morning, maybe 6:37.
Okay.
This man in the church had been asleep, and he had a dream of me going into the church and in the basement and being attacked.
Oh, my goodness.
And in the dream, he said, God, let me wake up. I have got to intercede for Dana. And he spent the morning interceding for me, and the time was impeccable. It was the exact same time that I was in the basement looking for the shovels.
Spiritual
and
warfare
singing
right
the
there.
praise songs and this man's intercession, whoever was in ran out.
Wow. That's amazing. That's intercessory prayer in action right there. Wow. That is really cool. Wow.
Yes. And again, just another confirmation that I was where I needed to be.
Right. And you've had so many of those experiences. And, one of the main big stories that I wanted to share with our listeners is the vision that God gave you for a girls' home in Haiti. Now, this is a fascinating story. And as I mentioned earlier, Jesus said in John 10:27, "My sheep hear my voice. I know them and they follow me." And it's obvious in Dana's life that that's the case. And in particular with this very fascinating story of how God gave you this vision and then helped bring it to fruition. Tell us this story. This is really amazing.
Well, Daniel, I had just finished reading the book, The Circle Maker, by Mark Batterson. It's a book on prayer. And one of the things in the book that he shared, that he and his wife were praying, not just how much they should save for retirement, but they had asked God to give them an amount that over their lifetime they would give to ministry.
Wow.
Which was a totally different way of looking at things than I had thought of before. So
right.
I began to pray, Lord, show us how much you want us to give, above and beyond our tithes and offerings and above and beyond, mission pledges or building projects or any of those things. Lord, give us this goal. And so I had been praying that, and one night during a time of fasting and prayer, I had a dream or a vision of a girls' home with all these little dark faces and Peter Pan collars. They looked like they were in school uniforms, bows in their hair and baubles and beads, and they just looked so happy, and they were all standing in front of like a white building. And I felt like the Lord said to me, Dana, I want you and Dan to build a girls' home. And I got to see inside of this girls' home, and there weren't bunk beds. It was like a home, a lot of bedrooms, and each little girl had their own bed, and it was very girly, bright pink rugs on the floor, and each girl had their own little closet, and it was very specific. So I woke up, and I was excited and anxious at the same time. So I kept praying about it for a couple of days, and it just would not go away. So I said to my husband, Dan, I think we're supposed to build a girls' home.
Wow.
And he asked me two questions. Where is this home supposed to be? And where are we going to get the money for it? And Daniel, my answer to both questions was, I don't know. I have no idea.
Sometimes God doesn't give us those details up front.
No, he doesn't. But he didn't take away the passion that I felt in my heart that we were to do this. So I called my church and asked, hey, are we involved in any ministries with orphanages? And our church supports only one orphanage, and it's in the Philippines. And those were not the faces that I saw in my dream.
Okay. Yeah, you didn't see Asian children. You saw black children?
I didn't. I didn't. I saw just very dark-skinned faces, not Asian faces. Okay. So I knew that was not the way I was to go.
All right.
And I, for the first time, and I'm the kind of person, I've often said to God, I would just like ticker tape from heaven, Dana, this is where you're to go, and this is what you're to do, and this is what you're to say.
Yes, it would be nice to have an itinerary and a roadmap, right?
Yes, exactly. And I just said, Lord, if this is from you, you're going to have to lay this out. We're willing, but you're going to have to tell us where and tell us how.
Wow. Well, you know what? We want to hear how the Lord told you where and how after the break. You're listening to Divine Intervention Radio. I'm your host, Daniel Fazina. We're visiting with our special guest, Dana Joy Cavallaro, and she is telling us how the Lord worked in her life in many different ways, and in particular, this vision that God gave her for a girls' home and how he's going to help her bring it to pass. So stay with us. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Divine Intervention with Daniel Fazina, and we'll return in just a moment.
I believe in miracles.
Times are tough, not getting easier, but there's an opportunity that could make a significant change in your financial situation. People are paying too much for home utilities, and everybody has them. Help friends and family save money and get paid for it. No obligation. You don't even have to talk to anyone unless you want to. Just listen to a 3-minute recorded message. Call now, 715-GET-CASH. That's 715-GET-CASH. Listen, decide, and you could be on your way to a better tomorrow. 715-438-2274. That's 715-GET-CASH. Divine Intervention welcomes the support of Latirzo Associates, Certified Public Accountants. Latirzo Associates, Certified Public Accountants is a family-owned and operated Christian business serving their clients with quality accounting services for over 40 years, offering full-service accounting for any type of business, large or small, in any state of the union. Latirzo Associates, Certified Public Accountants, 12 Oak Street, No. 5, West Hampton Beach, New York, 11978. Phone 631-288-3334. That's 631-288-3334. Hey, this is Daniel Fazina of Divine Intervention Radio. The Bible contains some incredible stories of miracles and divine interventions. Jesus calmed a raging storm, healed paralytics, and even raised the dead. But are these types of events still happening today? The answer to this question, as you will see from reading my book, Divine Intervention, 50 True Stories of God's Miracles Today, is an emphatic yes. Contained within the book is a collection of amazing true stories that attest to this fact. You will read the astonishing first-hand accounts of people who have been healed of paralysis, terminal cancer, and tumors through prayer. You will see the love of God powerfully transform the life of an Islamic terrorist. You will witness the liberation of the demon-possessed, the resurrection of the dead, and much more. Prepare to be awed and inspired as you experience Divine Intervention. More information about Divine Intervention, 50 True Stories of God's Miracles Today, can be found at www.divineinterventionradio.com or by calling 800-247-4784. That's 1-800-247-4784. First Steps to Success with ABC's secret millionaire, Danny Johnson, gives you the tools to remap your internal beliefs about yourself, about your money, and about others. You'll learn a simple but powerful system to create success in any environment, as well as business building, leadership, sales, and marketing skills to create the lifestyle most only dream about. First Steps to Success with Danny Johnson. More information can be found at DannyJohnson.com or phone 866-760-8255.
Divine Intervention is supported by Grease Car Vegetable Fuel Systems. Grease Car Vegetable Fuel Systems is the leading manufacturer of vegetable oil conversion kits for diesel vehicles. With Grease Car kits, your diesel vehicle can run on waste vegetable oil, saving money while recycling and helping to preserve the environment. Kits are available for diesel-powered cars, light-duty and heavy-duty trucks. More information can be found on the web at www.greasecar.com or by calling 413-534-0013.
Divine Intervention is supported by the Other Perspective Media recording artist, Poet Billy Lamont. More information about Poet Billy Lamont's CDs, books, and Other Perspective Media can be found at www.billylamont.com.
What's happening? This is Fieldy from Korn. You're listening to Divine Intervention with Daniel Fazina. Stay tuned.
Feeling all alone, there's so far to go. The signs are nowhere on this road, guiding me home. When the night is closing in, it's falling on my skin. Oh God, will you come close? You light up the sky. You light up the sky. Show me you are with me, and I can't deny, no I can't deny that you are right here with me. You've opened my eyes so I can see you all around me. You light up the sky, you light up the sky to show me that you are with me.
Welcome back to Divine Intervention Radio. I'm your host, Daniel Fazina, and this is the interview show that features intriguing people who've experienced the hand of God in amazing ways. And again, the website, divineinterventionradio.com. If you're just tuning in, we are visiting with our special guest, Dana Joy Cavallaro, who is a minister and a pastor, and just has some really cool stories of how God has given her visions and then led her to be able to see these visions come to pass and come to fruition. Dana, welcome back.
Thank you, Daniel.
Not a problem. So before the break, you were telling us how God gave you this vision for a girls' home, and you had a vision and saw dark faces, black faces. Your church supported an orphanage in the Philippines, but you knew that wasn't where God was telling you. Your husband asked you a couple of questions. Okay, where's this home going to be, and how are we going to pay for it? And you had no idea. So
you've got it. God also gave me a very specific amount that we were to give.
Okay.
And it was more money than I've ever made in a year.
Wow, okay.
And, now, I've always been a pastor, and we don't tend to make tons of thinking, God, where are we going to get this money from? But in the midst of all of this, I felt such a release that the Lord was going to let me know at the right time when and where. I still would ask people. I would meet people, and I would say, "Hey, do you guys know of any orphanages, maybe in Africa, or what do you think?" There was a gentleman that I knew, a pastor in another part of the state, who had done some work in Haiti, and I had called him, and I said, "Do you know if the organization you work with, they're not by any chance like building a girls' home or anything, are they?" And he said, "No, they're not." Okay. He said, "They're building a hospital. Would you like to help?" And I was just so sure that we were just to do the girls' home.
Okay.
And so I said, "No, but if you hear of anything, let me know." And I would just pray about it. Not every day, but whenever I would think of it, I would pray, "Okay, Lord, we're all in. Just tell us where."
Right.
So this happened in January.
Of what year is this now?
2012.
January of 2012, okay.
Yes. And so in the end of April, somewhere at the beginning of May, I get a call from this pastor, a friend that I had originally called, and he said, "I just came back from Haiti, and Dana, I can't believe it, but they need a girls' home."
Wow.
They have several on the compound, but they are growing, and they've had so many kids come in, even since the earthquake there, that they want to build a girls' home.
Okay.
So he said, "Why don't I just give you their telephone number and website, and you can call them and just see if this is what you're supposed to do." So I called the number he gave me, and I was speaking with one of the directors, and she led me to the website. Now, I'm on the phone with her, and she's telling me, kind of giving me their backstory and their history. And I'm on the computer at the same time looking at their photos, and then I'm stopped dead in my tracks.
What happened?
Because one of the photos on their website was the exact photo, the exact picture of what I had seen in this vision that God had given me.
Describe the picture. What did it look like?
It was the whitish building, and all of these little girls with these happy, smiling faces standing in front of it in like school uniforms, the white shirts and the plaid skirts and the red bows in their hair, everything.
So this is the picture that God gave you in the vision?
It is.
Like a year earlier, or?
About 4 months earlier.
4 months earlier.
4 or 5 months earlier.
So that must have been a bit of a confirmation for you?
Well, I couldn't stop crying. And so the person on the phone, "Dana, are you there? Hello, are you there?" And when I could collect myself, I said, "I'm not exactly sure, how, but my husband and I would like to pay for this girls' home that you're building."
Wow.
And so she started to cry as well.
So you knew the amount that you needed to give. You didn't have the money, but you knew this was the project to devote it to.
Exactly.
Okay, wow. So you're going step by step by faith, and God is confirming things for you, lining things up for you. So you have the place, you have the the organization to work with. Now you just need the money.
Exactly.
Right? Okay.
So I go
how
to
did
my
it go from
husband
there?
and I share this with him, and he said, "Okay, we will try to sell a house that we had." Now, if I could back up years earlier, God had put it on our hearts Daniel, I just want to stop and say to your radio audience, we're just such ordinary people. It's not like we have tons of money. We're just ordinary people that are doing the best we can to obey God.
And that's what God looks for. He doesn't look for superstars. He looks for people who have a willing heart. And he can use anybody, and he can, if he gives you a vision, he has the means to make it come to pass. You don't have to struggle with it. You don't have to do it all on your own. He will provide.
And he does. Well, years earlier, we had purchased a home for a single mom in our church. She had lived in a trailer park that was, this particular trailer park had just been dangerous for her and her children. She would come out in the morning and her tires would be slashed, and it wasn't healthy for them.
Sure.
And God had just put it on our heart that we were to help her purchase a home. We found a home that was going into foreclosure, so we were able to get it at a terrific price, and then all the rent that she paid us, we saved so that she could then use it for the down payment and take over the house.
Wow, that's amazing. What an act of selflessness and generosity. That's really to be commended.
We just felt so strongly that the Lord was to do this. Well, after she had raised her kids, she kind of walked away from the home. And I remember going over, my husband and I spent a ton of time there, fixing it up again. And I was pulling weeds in the front yard, and I said to the Lord, God, we bought this home to bless her, and now we're stuck with this house. And the Lord spoke to me and said, this house is going to be used for blessing.
Wow.
So we had tried to sell it, I believe, 3 other times, and it just wouldn't sell.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, one time we had a contract on it, and the people came back and said, we think the house maybe is haunted or something, so we're not going to buy it.
What gave them that idea?
They heard something in the garage.
Okay. Maybe that was the Holy Spirit trying to scare them away.
I don't know. Maybe so, because we put the house up for sale. This was now June, because we spent some time getting it together, and the house sold.
Okay. So after having tried to sell it several times over the years, couldn't sell it, now you need money for the girls' home, and your house sells.
It does.
Just like that.
It's amazing.
Well, I guess it's obvious that God had a plan and a purpose for it.
He absolutely did. And, when I was back over again pulling weeds and, working in the yard as we were getting ready to sell, I just felt like the Lord said to me, when you bought this house, I knew that there were little girls in Haiti who would need a home. So I also watered the weeds with a lot more tears, just watching God do this right in front of our eyes.
Wow.
So as the money came in from the closing on the house, we used, all the proceeds were for Haiti. We sent them $10,000 to let them know, hey, we're serious, we're doing this. And I just kind of felt a check in my spirit about sending the rest, which had been weird, because this is what we were working for. But I didn't feel to send the rest right away.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that I learned through this whole process was just about waiting on the Lord.
Right.
Because even though we were the ones facilitating, helping them to do it, I really felt like Dan and I were bystanders watching God do this.
That's how you know it's God, right?
Absolutely. So we're now getting into the fall, and it's getting closer to the holidays. And I know that we need to send the money. And when I go, we had put it in a special account so that we could just send the whole account to them. And when I went to click on to send it to them, they had a special matching grant. So for every $1 that we sent, somebody anonymously matched it.
Wow.
So by waiting to send the money, what we sent was doubled.
That is amazing.
And completely paid for the girls' home.
Wow. Friend, you're listening to Divine Intervention Radio. I'm your host, Daniel Fazina, and we are visiting with our special guest, Dana Joy Cavallaro. And wow, just an amazing story of waiting on God and seeing a vision that God placed in her heart come to fruition, from connecting her with the right people, the right place, and then providing the funds, the money, in such an amazing way, but the sale of her home and also this matching donation. How did you feel when you were able to complete this and actually send them the entire amount that was required?
I felt probably overwhelmed, overshadowed by God, and overwhelmed by His grace that He would choose us to do this. I felt kind of like this empty pipe that the Lord had just poured this massive amount of water through. And all I had done was just stood and watched. I felt like I really didn't do anything.
Wow.
And then they asked us, would you please come? We want you to see what you built. And so the next year in spring break, we went. And we felt to take our younger son. Now, at this time, he's 16. He's not so keen. Like, I'm going to spend my spring break doing what? Just touring, around Haiti? I don't know that I want to go. But we really felt like that he should. And so he did.
Okay.
And we went, and the trip started off rather disastrous. We spent 3 hours on the tarmac in Miami. When we got to Port-au-Prince, we missed our flight, and there were no more that day to go to Cap Haitian, where we needed to be to get to where the girls' home was. So we ended up spending a night in Port-au-Prince that we had not planned on at all.
Okay.
We had no reservations. God just worked things out. And we were able there to connect with a pastor that night and actually have dinner in his home. Now, I tell you that, Daniel, because God is amazing. Sitting in this man's home and hearing his story and what the Lord had done for them and their church. And now my 16-year-old is hearing all of this.
Right.
Meeting some of his kids and just hearing about what God's doing in Haiti was an amazing thing. The next morning we get up and we go to, we catch the flight, we make it to the children's home. I probably spend the next 2 days crying. That sounds like I cry a lot. I really don't. But these little girls kept running up to us saying, thank you for our home. And when we walked in, this home was so beautiful and decorated. There were bedrooms, not bunk beds. Each little girl had their own bed. It was girly and pink. And they were quick to show us each little girl had their own closet.
Wow. And that's uncommon, I understand, in Haiti, right?
It is. But those were all the details that the Lord had shown me in giving me a tour of this home in my dream.
Wow. Well, it's amazing because in the Bible there are many instances of God speaking to people in dreams and visions. And some people might not realize that He still speaks to people in that way. And you're a case in point, Dana. And just, hearing about what the Lord did through you and what was it like actually seeing your vision in person in real life right there in front of you and have it a reality for these girls?
The best way I could say it is that it was just humbling. It was so humbling to be a part of something. And the Lord just brought me back again, even to the house. I told you I would bless you through this house.
Right.
Well, He blessed us, but He blessed, 24 little girls who have a home now.
That is amazing. Is there a website for this particular girls' home that people can look?
Yes, it's called Danita's Children, DANITA''S.
Okay, so it's www.danitaschildren.org, DANITAS children.org. There's a wonderful picture there of, I guess it's Danita in the middle with all of her orphan children, big smiling faces. Now, is Danita the founder? What's her story?
She is the founder.
Okay.
She has an incredible story. This single woman at the time, she's married now, but at the time, she came to Haiti with like $200 in her pocket. The Lord told her what little village to go to, and she did, and she rented a home, and immediately started taking in orphan children. Now she has a compound. I believe there are 5 or 6 of these homes built. There's a church. They have a school that anyone in the neighborhood can go to, as long as they go to church on Sunday. And the school is up to like 6th grade. But Danita has a tremendous story of a little baby who was brought to them after having been severely burned. Most of the homes around this area, they cook on an open fire.
Right.
And so burns are very, very common. And it costs $5 US to go to a doctor. And this baby had been burned over most of its body, and the mother did not have $5. And she took it to clinic after clinic, and nobody would see her.
Wow.
Finally brought the baby to Danita, and they immediately got on a bus. It's like an 8 or 9 hour bus ride to get to Port-au-Prince. And at the burn clinic, this baby died.
Oh, my gosh.
The baby died because nobody had the $5 at the beginning to get the baby the care that it needed.
Right.
And there is no hospital on that part of the island, and God used that little baby to stir in Danita the desire to build a hospital, and they completed it, totally completed it, I think 2 years ago.
That is amazing.
It would have been in 2013.
Wow, that is amazing. You know how God can use tragedy to bring about such goodness, and bring about. I don't know if silver lining is the right word for it, but the Lord says that all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord and are the called according to His purpose. And it kind of reminds me of that verse in Romans 8:28.
Yes.
Friend, you're listening to Divine Intervention Radio again, and we are visiting with our special guest, Dana Cavallaro. And we're talking about how Dana was used to bring about this children's home, one of the girls' homes at an orphanage in Haiti. And you can see pictures at www.danitaschildren.org. That's DANITAS children.org. Dana, I want to ask you, if there's someone out there listening who maybe has a vision from God and they really want to do something meaningful and impactful. They have an idea, a passion that's on their heart, but they have no idea how to go about making it come to pass. What would be your advice to them?
My first advice would be to just continually bathe it in prayer. I just read a book by Heidi Baker, and she said, dreams require intercession. And I believe that, and I would say just bathe it in prayer and listen to the Lord, because He's the one, if He gives you the dream, He's going to be the one that would provide what you need to see that dream fulfilled. And that's certainly what He did in our case. And I think if I had been anxious and tried to make it on our own, we would have missed the biggest blessing. What I was telling you about our 16-year-old son that went, at the orphanage, he was surrounded by kids. Here's this big white football player kid, and he's just, these kids are crawling all over him and just loving on him. And God did something in his heart. He's now been back to Haiti 4 times. And the pastor that we just happened to meet that night because we had missed the plane,
right?
One of his kids and her husband have become like second family to my son.
Wow.
And now he wants to spend his life helping Haiti.
Wow.
He's in college. He has a missions minor. And he's always thinking about ways to help Haiti. And he would really like to spend the rest of his life there.
That is amazing. When you do take that step of faith and you go on the mission field, God meets you and He can change you. He can really give you one of those watershed moments or a defining moment where it will shape the direction of the rest of your life. And it's obvious that it happened with your son. So I would encourage you, friend, if you have teenagers or children, you may want to take them with you on a mission trip. Or if they're older teens, encourage them to go on their own. One trip like that, even just a week long, can change their life forever. That is Awesome. Dana, we're almost out of time, but if there's anyone listening who is not sure about if God is even real or there for them, what would you want to say to them?
I'd want to say, give God a chance. You've got nothing to lose. He desires to speak to his created ones, the Father of us all. He has a heart and he has a love for you. I would encourage you to give him a chance and see what he'll do through you. I'm just such an ordinary woman, and yet I've been privileged to see so many miracles that God has done.
Well, it has been an honor and a privilege, Dana, to have you on the show. Do you want to give out any contact information for any listeners who want to get a hold of you?
Sure. My email is dcavallaro, DCAVALLARO, @cox.net.
All right, dcavallaro @cox.net. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your amazing story with us, and I encourage you to just keep up the great work you're doing, shining for Jesus. I appreciate you.
God bless you, Daniel. Thank you for having me today.
All right. Friend, that about does it for this episode of Divine Intervention Radio. Again, I'm your host, Daniel Fazina. Thank you so much for tuning in. God willing, we will see you again next time for another exciting episode of Divine Intervention Radio. And just as a reminder, if you're listening to this broadcast before November 24th, 2015, please go to Gerber.com, register with your email, and vote for my daughter Evangeline in the 2015 Gerber Spokesbaby contest. You can go to Gerber.com, register with your email there, and you can vote for Evangeline. She is baby number 286048 under toddlers. Again, baby number 286048, Evangeline from Henrico, Virginia. That's my daughter, and I appreciate any votes you can give her. Let's overwhelm Gerber's servers with love for the cuteness. Thanks so much. I really appreciate your help. Take care, and God bless.
You've been listening to Divine Intervention with your host, Daniel Fazina. You can email Daniel at divineintervention@mail.com. That's divineintervention@mail.com. All programs of Divine Intervention are available online at divineinterventionradio.com. That's divineinterventionradio.com. Join us next time here on Divine Intervention.
Hey, this is Daniel Fazina of Divine Intervention Radio. The Bible contains some incredible stories of miracles and divine interventions. Jesus calmed a raging storm, healed paralytics, and even raised the dead. But are these types of events still happening today? The answer to this question, as you will see from reading my book, Divine Intervention, 50 True Stories of God's Miracles Today, is an emphatic yes. Contained within the book is a collection of amazing true stories that attest to this fact. You will read the astonishing first-hand accounts of people who have been healed of paralysis, terminal cancer, and tumors through prayer. You will see the love of God powerfully transform the life of an Islamic terrorist. You will witness the liberation of the demon-possessed, the resurrection of the dead, and much more. Prepare to be awed and inspired as you experience divine intervention. More information about Divine Intervention, 50 True Stories of God's Miracles Today can be found at www.divineinterventionradio.com or by calling 800-247-4784. That's 1-800-247-4784. Divine Intervention welcomes the support of Latirzo Associates, Certified Public Accountants. Latirzo Associates, Certified Public Accountants is a family-owned and operated Christian business serving their clients with quality accounting services for over 40 years, offering full-service accounting for any type of business, large or small, in any state of the union. Latirzo Associates, Certified Public Accountants, 12 Oak Street, number 5, West Hampton Beach, New York, 11978. Phone 631-288-3334. That's 631-288-3334. Times are tough, not getting easier, but there's an opportunity that could make a significant change in your financial situation. People are paying too much for home utilities, and everybody has them. Help friends and family save money and get paid for it. No obligation. You don't even have to talk to anyone unless you want to. Just listen to a 3-minute recorded message. Call now, 715-GET-CASH. That's 715-GET-CASH. Listen, decide, and you could be on your way to a better tomorrow. 715-438-2274. That's 715-GET-CASH.